What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Watch It in Action. I'm BouseFeenux, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Dual Toxocyst... screw it.
Cut.
The Dual Toxocyst was released in 18.5 along with some other infested infused weapons. This weapon is available to research in your dojo in the biolab, and like its siblings, the leison and Mutalist Cernos, it features a unique mechanic not found on any other weapon in the game. Upon scoring a headshot with the Dual Toxocyst, the weapon will transform for 5 seconds. During that time, you'll have unlimited ammo, increased fire rate, decreased recoil, and a bonus of toxin damage with every shot. Please note, though, that getting headshots while the proc is active will not reset the proc. You'll have to get a headshot after the proc is ended to re-trigger the proc. Now, as for the base stats, these infested pistols feature high puncture damage and the second highest status chance in the game next to the Tysis. Now, the Dual Toxocyst may sound awesome on paper, but they do suffer from extremely high recoil and very slow fire rate, making any missed shots pre-proc extremely painful. Now, if you can get past those issues, you'll have a pretty solid secondary on your hands. That being said, I've put together a couple builds for this, and I have a few options for you guys, so let's go ahead and take a look at those. Okie dokie, so taking a look at the build here, we've got 2 Forma on this thing, which is actually pretty good. It does come with a couple polarities, so you kind of get a little bit of a head start, and even if you just want to try this weapon out, you can still fit a pretty decent build on it without having to invest too much just to see if this is the right weapon for you. Now, like I said earlier, it does have some kind of pitfalls with the slow fire rate, the recoil, you know, stuff like that. Those are some kind of hard things to get around, but, you know, if you can get past that, like I said, this is a very solid secondary. The build we have on here is pretty basic. It's just a status pistol build, and I have some stuff to show you here in a second, but going across the top here, we've got Hornet Strike for our damage, Barrel Diffusion, and Lethal Torrent, of course, for fire rate and multi-shot. We definitely need those, and then we've got 2 status mods here that gives us 98% status. You can get 100% status, but I figured 98% was good enough, and I wanted to have a little bit extra damage with these 90% here, so I went ahead and chose those. Now, the last mod here is kind of up for debate. You can either use a Seeker, or not a Seeker, you can either use an Anemic Agility, which is what I have here, or you can use a Steady Hands to get around the recoil. Now, I've gone ahead and I've put some footage together. I want to show you the difference between Anemic Agility and non-Anemic Agility. So here, first, you're looking at the Anemic Agility footage. This is the weapon with Anemic Agility on it. And then this footage here, this is the footage without Anemic Agility. Notice how different the fire speed is, even with the increased fire rate from getting a headshot. Makes a big difference, doesn't it? So, this is the build that I've put together here. It's pretty simple. We're using corrosive and heat, although you can use any element you want. This is a puncture weapon, so that's really nice against armored targets. It's going to help you out a ton. And, you know, notice some of the other stats here. A lot of these stats are really arbitrary because they change once you get a headshot. So, except for the critical multiplier and stuff like that, and the magazine size doesn't really matter that much because we're going to have unlimited ammo most of the time if you can pull off the headshots. So, using a steady hands, though, that will allow you to mitigate the recoil before you get a headshot with a weapon. But honestly, I think the Anemic Agility, or if you don't want to take the 15% debuff to damage, you can use a Gunslinger instead. But Anemic Agility is just going to give you faster fire rate, so that's definitely nice there. But yeah, this is the build here. Let's go ahead and see it in the Simulacrum real quick. Today we're going to be using something that really fits the weapon very well. We're going to be using some Corrupted Lancers. They're high-level void targets, essentially. These guys have a lot of armor, and this weapon is pretty much made for them. It's got puncture damage, we got corrosive on it for the status chance, so their armor is going to be taken away. But notice that those first couple shots, if you miss your shot, if you miss your headshot, this weapon is going to be very painful to use because it does have crazy recoil, it does have a very slow fire rate if you're not getting those headshots, and my big gripe about this weapon is that a headshot doesn't reset the proc. When you're using Berserker or some other weapon like that, every time you get a crit, it resets Berserker. I wonder why they decided to make it where it has a finite amount of time, it runs out, and then you have to get the proc again. Maybe we'll never know, I don't know, but if you can get past some of the negatives about this weapon, it does have some very, very good positives. It is a very powerful weapon for being a status weapon. It's got a lot of base damage, and you know that status is going to scale well depending on what element you're using. So you got a lot of options here at your disposal, and then plus you got that extra toxin damage on top of it. And unlimited ammo is never a bad thing. especially against higher level enemies, and the faster you can fire, the more damage you're going to do. It's kind of like how a melee weapon works. The faster you can attack, the more damage you can theoretically do, since you don't have to reload or anything like that. But guys, this has been another episode of Watch It in Action. Again, I'm BouseFeenux, and we just covered the Dual Toxocyst. Leave a like, subscribe if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something new, and I really appreciate you guys watching. Let's get on to 5,000 subscribers. Thanks a ton.